And then Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture and so on and so forth. Then he went back to his apartment, and we were all ready for bed. And then the word got out, Srila Prabhupada came back. This is like 30 minutes later or so. So we all scrambled together and came into the temple room, and we were sitting there very expectantly, and Srila Prabhupada was very grave. And he said, he began by, he didn't say anything at first. He played a tape of Vande Hum with himself on the harmonium. He said, I've just received one telegram from my godbrothers at Keshav Maharaj, the person who gave me sannyas, has departed. And he said, then as he was talking, he began remembering his spiritual master. There's a cassette tape of this. And as he was speaking, there was one tear, very, very slowly came and just kind of like hovered for a little while. It was like his separation from his spiritual master. It was such a beautiful tear, just like a shining diamond. So many of us saw that and have commented on it. And at last it fell. It was so beautiful. So Srila Prabhupada, he asked that one document be sent around the room. And this one girl, Madhavilata, was asked to take it around. So she's taking around this document to sign, to reply to the Gaudiya Math that he's received the news. And then Srila Prabhupada said, the girl, she was hesitating, like there was another guest tonight, and she wasn't going to let us sign. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, everyone here, they are all witness. So then I knew that Srila Prabhupada was accepting me in a certain way. He was accepting me as a part of something that was happening there. And I felt it was a very wonderful experience.
So the first time I saw Srila Prabhupada in Hawaii, the Pujari had really done a great job decorating the deities. There were banana leaves and tulsi, mounds of tulsi and flowers. And so when Srila Prabhupada started the lecture, he commented how beautiful the deities looked and how wonderful a job the Pujari had done. And he said, you must do this. You must decorate the deities very nicely. And by decorating the deities, you are decorating your heart. And then he said, and if you neglect to decorate the deities, then you will be neglecting to decorate your heart. And then your heart would become black. And he goes, and that is why so many have left. And everybody was, as he said in a very grave voice. You know, first it was very ecstatic, and that is why so many have left. And everybody got like nervous and stuff.
When we went to India with Srila Prabhupada, 1970, at the time, and leading up to that time, the Sankirtan movement had pretty much just begun, say for a year and a half, meaning active street Sankirtan. And it was done by, chanting Hare Krishna on the streets and distributing back to Godhead magazines, basically. So when we got to India, we applied the same formula. We started to chant Hare Krishna on the streets. But as soon as we did that, there was some ridicule. People were ridiculing us a bit. And there were some newspaper articles, even. And people somehow were throwing coins towards us. When Prabhupada heard this, especially the people were throwing coins, he told us stop immediately doing daily kirtan in the streets, because people are taking it in a cheap way. Then gradually things turned around a little bit, but it was significant that Prabhupada was willing to adjust completely a most fundamental strategy, of street chanting parties, if it did not have the desired effect. So a preacher has to be an expert judge of time, place, and circumstance, and know how to present Krishna consciousness in an effective way for the local population. And it may be one formula may be totally unsuitable. And Prabhupada did really know how to decide which formula was suitable to which place. I think that was one of Prabhupada's most outstanding qualities. He wasn't a stereotyped thinker. He used to say, you know, spiritual life is not static, it's ecstatic. You know, his pun on that word, it's ecstatic. And he was always thinking of, you know, brilliant, unique ways to spread Krishna consciousness.
When I was Prabhupada's secretary in Mayapur, Sridham Mayapur, 1976, I think in February, just before the annual meeting, Prabhupada told me several jokes. He told one joke about the Indian servant of a British lord who only knew 3 English words, which were yes, no, very well.
Very good.
Very good. So what happened is that one Indian was a servant of a British lord and had to leave the service, so he convinced his friend to take over the service. You heard the joke also. And so the friend protested, I don't know English. How can I serve this British lord? He said, you only have to know 3 words. Yes, no, very good. He said, if you know that, that's enough. So one time, so he took the job. So one time there was something missing. And so the British lord accosted this servant and said, did you take this object? He said, yes. No. So, will you give it back? No. So I'm going to call the police. Very good.
After being with Srila Prabhupada in his room for 2 hours, and there were so many things that happened, then I went into tears. And I said, okay, I'm leaving ISKCON. I'm leaving this movement. I can't take it anymore. I can't become pure like that. I can't become a pure devotee. And so the Narayana and Jai Gopal, they said, you're right. This is not an ascending process. You can't do it. But Srila Prabhupada is so great that he can make a devotee even out of you. And that one glorification of Srila Prabhupada, thank you Narayana, has kept me all these years.
So I arrived in Hawaii around Gaur Purnima time, and we knew Srila Prabhupada was coming in May. So I immediately set out to learn everything I could possibly learn about Hawaii, knowing that when Prabhupada would come, he would regularly ask devotees questions about the place he was visiting. So I learned all about Hawaii's history, the hotels, the beaches, you name it, I knew it. I was Mr. Hawaii. So I was learning everything I could, and I was just like knowing that one day I'll be on the walk with Prabhupada, and he'll ask a question, and I'll just be able to step right up and go, well, Prabhupada, that was da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So one day we were walking on Waikiki Beach, and I was walking right behind Srila Prabhupada in his actual footsteps, because they would leave an impression in the sand, and I was thinking, you don't get an opportunity like this in millions of lifetimes. So I was just very carefully walking. I looked to see exactly where his footprint was, and I'd walk right in it, walking and walking, and I'm thinking, Prabhupada's going to ask a question, I'm going to know the answer. Prabhupada's going to ask a question, I'm going to know the answer. I'm going to be the man, right? And then all of a sudden, Srila Prabhupada stopped, and he turned right around, and he was looking right at me. He was very close. I mean, his eyes and everything were and without looking, he pointed like this. He goes, what is that? And I looked over, and I had no idea what it was. I was shaking, and I felt about 1 inch tall, and I was on the hellish planets, and my entire life was ruined. And like in the distance, it was like far away practically, because I wasn't there practically. I could hear somebody going, Prabhupada, that's a device that measures how far a person has walked. And Prabhupada was still looking at me. He says, so they should make a device that tells how far death is, but that they cannot do. And then he finished looking at me, and he turned around and kept walking. And I think by then I had like recovered a little, and my pride had been very completely eliminated. My pride had been very eliminated, and I was actually in ecstasy, thinking Prabhupada had mystic powers. He knew everything I was thinking. He knew I learned all about Hawaii. He knew I wanted him to ask a question, and he knew I thought I was going to impress him. So I understood you don't want to show off in front of your spiritual master. So I was really impressed with Prabhupada's mystic powers, the philosophy and his teachings, and also his sense of humor. That I had been chastised, but it was humorous. And at the same time, he instructed all the devotees about how, you can't measure how far death is. And that's the big thing that, that you should know, is how far death is at any moment.